Thank y'all for being here. Woohoo! So I'm standing before you tonight on the cusp of my 16th year with Historic Columbia, and when I think about what this organization was like in 2002 when I arrived, it's pretty astounding to think of the way that it has changed over that 15, almost 16 years. And those changes are across the board. They're with the buildings, the interpretation and the care that we're able to take now of the physical structures and the gardens, to a grown really dramatically in community support and partnerships. And that's at every level. I think it's wonderful to kind of look through some photographs from 2002 and 2005 and see the shifts that we've made as an organization. And many of you have been with us through that entire time. We certainly appreciate your commitment and belief that we can do what we say that we can. So I'm not going to go into the whole 15 years of Historic Columbia. I'm just going to look at the last year, so don't worry. I know that there's wine to be had, and I'm not going to stand in the way of that. So we're going to look just at 2016, 17, and we're going to do that looking at three lenses of success, I think, over the last year. The first is income, and we'll look at both contributed support and earned support. The second is participation, and the third is recognition. And as you'll note in the financial statement that's in your annual report that you have, we did finish this year in the black. Beth's husband, Bud Kibler, is a past president for Historic Columbia, and he was really invested in ensuring that our books were good and left us in good stead. We continue to look to Bud for some of that inspiration today. So I'm going to highlight two important wins for us this year. And the first is with Midlands Gives. This is a program that is facilitated by the Central Carolina Community Foundation, and their goal is to encourage philanthropy throughout the Midlands. Historic Columbia realized really amazing success on a number of levels with Midlands Gives this year. We had a total income of $18,534, and keep in mind this is one day of giving. We exceeded our previous record by over $4,000, and our goal for that year by over $8,000. We had a total number of unique donations at 243, of which 86 were new to Midlands Gives, and that exceeded our previous high numbers by 77. Over 100 donations were made during the power hour, so if you gave between 7 and 8 a.m., thanks. We got an extra $1,000 for winning the power hour, and that's the fourth year in a row that we have won the power hour. We're getting kind of greedy with that. So if you get a text from me at 7:42, like Issa did, make your gift. We finished second on the leaderboard out of 337 nonprofits who are participating in this event. And that's, again, the fourth year that Midlands Gives has been doing this, that we finished in the top 10. Second is the highest that we've ever finished. And then in addition, we had 100% support from our Board of Trustees, 100% from our Palladium Board, as well as 100% from our Development Committee. So really, the investment of those who are already involved in the organization led to that success. It was a very well-organized, stellar representation of the support of Historic Columbia working together towards this common goal and realizing success. I'm going to highlight some of the staff who were intimately involved in this. Wendy Sprack and Lauren Majowski, they're our development team. They led the charge. Our marketing team, Brian Harmon and Anna Kate Twitty, very creatively took the campaign challenge and developed this really wonderful series of videos and Facebook posts and live features and all sorts of things that I don't really understand. And that day we had all sorts of views and likes and record numbers of engagement on social media, likely in part because our own History Everyman, John Shearer, was the star of most of the videos that day. He roamed the city talking about historic places and the way that Historic Columbia has made it possible for many of these places to stand today. The second real win I think we've had this year is with the Hampton Preston Gardens. And As Catherine has already detailed, in the decade since adopting the Cultural Landscape Master Plan, Historic Columbia has made great strides in establishing and maintaining dynamic landscapes at each of the sites. The gift, as Catherine mentioned, from the Boyd Foundation for HP, indeed has been transformational. In this instance, we have proof that when resources are coupled with a committed and engaged staff, we can accomplish great things. And Evan Clements, Keith Mearns, and Dave Roof have worked tirelessly over the past year with a wonderful crew of volunteers to ensure that the contributed funds are properly and effectively put to work to recreate what we know will be, once again, a renowned garden in the Southeast. I should be asking y'all to stand up or wave your hand when I call your staff name. Keith and Evan are here. This is our wonderful grounds staff. Wendy's standing in the back. She's our development. Everybody knows John. And Brian, who worked on Midlands Gifts, and everything else that we do from a marketing perspective. Anna Kate just had a baby, so she's not with us tonight. We tried. So the second way that we're looking at measuring success this year is through participation. In 2016-17, Historic Columbia staff embraced the strategic goal that Gina mentioned to do fewer things better. So we reduced event days from 134 to 87. And we have the following results. Despite having fewer total programs, attendance increased by 4,200 people over the previous fiscal year. Despite a decrease in programs and events, marketing engagement increased across the board. Our website engagement increased by 17%, Instagram by 66%, and overall media coverage by 179% over the previous year. Programs ranging from the time-tested cemetery tours and quarterly happy hour events to garden workshops and the ever-popular behind-the-scenes tours were consistently realizing capacity crowds. And this success can be attributed to an extremely creative staff that works well together. Our educators, led by James Quint, and Heather Bacon-Rogers. Our dynamic presenters, again, John, and Fielding. Freed is Fielding here? A really dogged determination by Wendy to secure new and exciting venues for activities, as well as a creative and dynamic marketing team that really knows how to get folks excited about what we're doing and get them to show up. Our student engagement was up this year by 15%. So in the fall and the spring, Celia Gallons and Jill founded, I know Celia's not here, Jill's not. We're on the road with traveling trunks more than on site with school groups. This is a great program, the Traveling Trunk Program. It's sponsored by Blue Cross Blue Shield of South Carolina. We have 2 representatives tonight from Blue Cross. This allows staff to provide hands-on learning with engaging activities on local history topics. We follow state standards. We embrace STEAM. It's STEAM now. Is it STEAM or STEM? Both things. STEAM. It used to be STEM. Now it's STEAM. The topics range from Reconstruction to the civil rights. And the program this past year reached 7,534 students in 52 schools across Richland and Lexington counties. And I'm sorry our elected officials left before I could give them those numbers, but y'all are all going to be calling them, right, at 10. So our success demands your participation as well. Historic Columbia relies on the active engagement of over 200 volunteers to keep the organization running, from the garden crew that meets twice a week to the docents who lead our tours at the house museums 4 days a week, to board members who oversee governance and policy. While the value of your time is quantifiable, 3,333 hours valued at $8,500. It's really impossible to measure what you give to the organization. Betsy Kleinfelder. There's Betsy. Betsy does an excellent job working with all volunteers to help them find the right fit within the organization and keeping them engaged throughout the year. And I would love for I know many of you are volunteers with the organization in a lot of different ways. I have in the front row one of our volunteers who was a docent with Historic Columbia for 33 years. Effie Phillips is here. I wish that she had stayed for 2 more years. That's why I always say. And Ann Fogg, is Ann still here?
Yes.
Ann was our longtime volunteer coordinator with Historic Columbia Mercantile.
Yes.
So the final measure of success that I want to touch on is recognition. So this year, Historic Columbia was recognized with the South Carolina State Historic Preservation Award for Heritage Tourism, as well as the Project Award for the Confederation of State and Local Histories for the Columbia Jewish Heritage Initiative. This is a project that is led by Catherine Allen, who is in Hawaii. We pay her too much, clearly. She leads this collaboration through which we recorded over 40 oral histories, collected 300 photographs, expanded the guided and web-based tours of Jewish sites, and installed and dedicated 3 historic markers. This year, Brian Harmon also put his creative talents toward the development of a website and blog that's called Kugels and Collards, and explores Southern Jewish foodways. It's a really awesome site. I encourage you to go have a look at that. There's a band playing right now. I'm going to wrap it up quickly. In addition to the statewide accolades, Historic Columbia was recognized by the National Council on Public History with an award for an outstanding public history project for the interpretive upgrades to the Man Simon site, led by John and James. A new exhibit content was developed in alignment with feedback that we got from 1516 listening sessions, findings from 6 years of archaeological investigation and new research that was conducted on the family and the site itself. Shifting to an exhibit model more closely aligned with Wilson allows Historic Columbia to offer more thorough and methodical exploration of the Mann, Jackson, and Simons family over the 140 years that they were associated with the site. Another measure of recognition comes when others seek you out as a community partner. Among the many collaborative efforts the organization takes on, the greatest potential for economic and community impact is evident with our preservation initiatives, which this year took the form of workshops that were hands-on, as well as the acceptance of a new facade easement, bringing the number of buildings under our review to 11. Sean Stucker. Pictured here. Sean does an extraordinary job managing this program, conducting really thorough baseline studies and annual reviews, and his work ensures that Historic Columbia has a direct hand in the protection of historic places in Columbia, and those easements are in perpetuity. So overall, Historic Columbia performed really well in 2016-17, thanks to support from all corners. But as I hope has been evident in this presentation, it is only possible thanks to the extraordinary commitment of the Historic Columbia staff, in addition to those that I have mentioned already. I mentioned Fielding, but I'm going to mention him again, because Fielding continues to cultivate new collections and incorporate those into the work that we do at our many sites in dynamic ways, and one of those will be open tonight. So as you're enjoying your food and drink outside in my mother's garden, please take a minute to go through the museum shop where Mitch, Journey, he will help you buy something before you go into the Robert Mills site and visit with the collections team and Fielding at Robert Mills. Debbie Giles is our admin finance coordinator. Debbie makes sure that we keep in good graces with our auditor and our finance committee. Did Lois come inside? Lois Carlisle, bless her heart, she works with me every day. really hard to lend a hand to anybody who needs it here on staff. And since Anna Kate has been on maternity leave, Lois has been assisting with marketing. So she writes those articles that you see in the Columbia Star on a weekly basis, and the annual report that you have in front of you, Lois is responsible for that this year. Jeff is not here, but Jeff does everything that nobody else will do at Historic Columbia. And Caroline Mobley and Brittany Buckner, who are relatively new to the staff, are doing great work both in marketing and rentals for the organization. So I just want you to know that we do a lot at Historic Columbia, but we don't do it in a vacuum. We do it with a really incredible team of staff who is committed to this organization and committed to making Columbia a better place. So we still have a lot of work to do. We're going to celebrate tonight. Next year, I look forward to reporting on what happened at the Hampton Preston Mansion, where we got $1 million investment from Richland County. They own the property, so the building is going to go through a complete rehabilitation, interpretive shifts, and then, as you know, the gardens will be totally transformed again in the next month. Greg Pierce, I don't think that Greg is here, but Greg has been our champion, our liaison. We wouldn't be where we are without Greg Pierce's support. So I just want to close by saying thank you as members of Historic Columbia for supporting what we do and providing the resources that we need to move forward. And I'm going to let Gina stand in the way of the wine from here.